Welcome to Film Strip, movie reviews presented by Continuous Play Podcast. These podcasts are spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and themes of the films in review. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Ron.
Today we're reviewing the thing we promised months ago, Carnosaur, starring Diane Ladd, Raphael Sbarge, Jennifer Runyon, apparently who's the nephew of son of Roger Corman. I fucked all that up. Never mind. Jennifer Runyon, Harrison Page, Ned Bellamy, and Clint Howard for about 8 seconds. Directed by something called Adam Simon. That can't be a real person. And released in 1993 on a budget of $850,000. Roger Corman spent $850,000 on this? No way. Grossed $1.75 million and was successful enough to have two sequels and a quasi-sequel in the dinosaur attack genre. So, okay, we dropped this several episodes back, right? Like, how did we get to Carnosaur as the Shocktober series, guys? Usually we're doing a slasher series. Why are we not doing dinosaur stuff?
I think we're running low on slashers.
Well, I'm waiting for the next version of them to all come out. I think that's the problem. They're all 2018 and beyond.
Yeah, I just I remember we did a couple reviews here and there, and we just kept on dropping the Carnosaur name. I don't even remember what was the review where this movie first came
Stone Cold. The Brian Bother thing was the one where we kept talking about Carnosaur and then would veer back into Stone Cold.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense now that I'm thinking back to it, but you can thank whiskey for that conversation. So,
Ron, though, you're the fan of this series, right?
I sure am. We haven't even gotten to my favorite Carnosaur yet, which is Carnosaur 2.
the Carnosaur.
It is the aliens of the Carnosaur universe.
I just spit Kool-Aid all over my computer. Thank you. So,
in which we got, I think too that we got to kind of bring up the fact that Jay's podcasting into a toilet paper roll, which I think is extremely fitting for this movie.
That's what happens when my microphone stand breaks, my wife moves, and everything is like packed right now. So this is recorded in a mix of things.
Yes, and we now have a new logo for the podcast, which will be that picture.
I will post a photo in the Facebook post and on the page of my microphone setup for this show, guys. So, but okay, so the other things here is, Ron, you've got the box set of this somewhere. You told me.
I sure do.
They made a box set of this.
All three Carnosaurs.
I can see this though. Corman will sell you anything because he said this movie ain't gonna pay for itself. So
well, there's a mathematics to it, and I actually saw Roger Corman explain this one time, like not in person, just like on YouTube, using like the Carnosaur movies as an example. You spend X amount on the first movie, you take what you profited off of the first movie, you use it to make the second movie, and if you have any left over, then you make a third movie.
There's some actual logic to that. That's like the way some NASCAR teams without major sponsors work, is you run in the big race and try to place in the top 15 so you can get enough to do the smaller races. It sort of works that way, like each one pays for itself. But the actors never make any money off of it, right?
I'm sure they all made, scale.
I mean, well, okay, yeah, we got to talk about like the two known people here, that are at least the ones that I know of, and not named Ron Howard here. Diane Ladd and Raphael Sbarge. I think we dropped before in our Stone Cold thing that Diane Ladd is the mother of Laura Dern, who was the co-star of Jurassic Park, correct? Because this is the same year as Jurassic Park. That's really what drives the fact that this movie even exists, right?
Yes, basically he wanted to make a dinosaur movie with someone, and they were able to get Laura Dern's mom.
I guess that makes kind of sense, kind of like Halloween using Jamie Lee Curtis because her mom was in Psycho. So,
which they brought around years later when they did H2O. They put her mom, when she was still living, in H2O as the school secretary. So
we might get Diane Ladd or in the new Jurassic World, is what you're saying.
Is she even with us anymore? That would be something. So is Laura Dern coming back for Jurassic World 2? So
I don't know. They're cloning everything in that movie. They might as well. So it's like a Diane Ladd / Tyrannosaurus Rex / like turkey vulture beast.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the quote dinosaur here in just a little bit. But okay, I made fun of it though. Is Adam Simon a real person? Like who is this person that allegedly directed this?
He's Sam Simon's brother. You know Sam Simon from The Simpsons?
I did not know that, no.
I just made that up, so it probably is not true. So,
well, you done half the work the screenwriters did.
He's probably some, cousin of Roger Corman who needed a job.
But John Carl Bickler is the one that's got some influence here, right? He's the special effects guru in this, who directed a previous Friday the 13th, New Blood, right?
That is correct. He did, he did 7, The New Blood, which is Jason versus the X-Men.
That's right.
And
Carrie,
X-Man.
Yeah. What, didn't he do one of the Hellraisers too, Ron? Like the one with Lance Hendrickson or something?
I think we said that, but I don't know if that was true.
I can't remember. I think he did a couple of Hellraisers along the way. Who cares? It doesn't matter. But I mean, that's who's making this thing. The funniest thing I have here, though, you wrote this note down, and I have to have confirmation of this. Gene Siskel gave this movie a thumbs up. Like, really?
Yes, he did.
Is this before? Is this before or after he had brain cancer?
It was it was before he died of brain cancer, but maybe after he got brain cancer. Oh, that's terrible.
Maybe he was just amused by it. I don't know. That's wow. Okay, so wasn't he one of the people that said "shame on you" to all the makers of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and yet this gets a pass? Really? I mean, wow, infected chicken farmers. I mean,
maybe I don't know. Maybe he has a weakness for blueberry pie made with goat embryos.
Dare to venture that a lot of our audience hasn't seen this, though. So I'm going to ask you, Ron, to try to summarize Carnosaur for us, if you will. Give us a good plot overview so we can get into it.
There's so much plot to cover. Dr. Jane Tiptree, a mysterious scientist working for the equally mysterious Unis Corporation, is working on breeding a secret strain of extra-large, extra-fertile chickens by splicing chicken DNA with the DNA of a bunch of other animals, as seen in the movie's opening credits. One night, while hauling a bunch of chickens to market, a mysterious creature hatches from a supposed chicken egg, mauls the driver, and flees into the night. Meanwhile, Doc Smith, that's Raphael Sbarge, and we will probably not be calling him Doc Smith the whole time, is protecting a digging site from a bunch of hippies, though he catches Anne, Jennifer Runyon, the future niece-in-law of Roger Corman, in the act. He lets her go, though, because every movie needs a love interest. As it turns out, that chicken DNA, it's actually dinosaur DNA, and Dr. Tiptree has created a virus that makes men sick and makes women give birth to dino babies.
Oh, my stars.
That's right. As the townies start dropping like flies, Doc sneaks into Unis to confront Tiptree, but it's already too late. The government is on the case, and they're shooting anyone they can get their hands on in an attempt to stop the infection from spreading. Doc escapes, being chased by a T-Rex. We have a model versus model showdown in which Doc and Thrush, that's Anne, fight the dinosaurs with skid steers. While they ultimately kill the T-Rex, the government refuses to leave the job undone. Extras from the Crazies show up, gun down Doc and Thrush, and burn their bodies, along with the antidote to Dr. Tiptree's dinosaur baby formula. We get the downer mist ending as credits roll.
I also felt like I was watching the beginning of The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, too, when the virus gets out and, like, Kathy, what's her name, Baker, the actress that won the Academy Award for Misery gets gunned down as, like, the loudmouth Howard Stern-esque Rush Limbaugh radio host and all that stuff. Like, I felt like I was watching that again, where the government just starts shooting people over The Secret, but...
Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates, thank you. I don't know who Kathy Baker is, but Kathy Bates, thank you. But yeah, I felt like I was watching that.
I was just hoping Joe Bob Briggs would show up playing a sheriff. like he did in that movie.
He might as well have, right? How is he not in this movie? Maybe he was busy at that point doing some of that late night movie host work that he did. But holy smokes, chicken embryos! We got birth scenes, guys. This is like I had no idea what you were walking me into, and as I sat watching this, I just stopped taking notes and accepting new information at some point, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening anymore. Like, what they even want me to do. I have a question right out of the gate. Is Dr. Tiptree, like, is she having some sort of, like, existential crisis that she realizes what she's done is wrong, and so now she's going to unleash holy hell on mankind by doing this dino baby chicken crossbreed thing on the world? Is that what this is about?
I think she was always working on something nefarious, and this is just the end result of years of secret research. As we find out in the movie, if you stayed awake, the government has a whole file on her.
3 times, Ron. 3 times it took me to get through this. So,
is that all? You're getting better.
I am very, very seasoned already with these movies, but yes, it took me 3 attempts to get through this movie. 1 time with my 10-year-old. So.
What did he think of it? I have to know. Like, was he able to swallow this down at all?
He ended up passing out on the couch in about 5 minutes into it. So, yeah, he didn't make it through.
I will say this. I don't know how you can pass out to this necessarily. Like, what is happening on the screen is so ridiculous or so awfully shot that I have to pay attention to it. It's so bad that I'm amazed that it gets going at all. But I don't understand, like, what's the what is the purpose here? The government funds this evil research gets out, and then they decide we got to kill everybody that's involved with this, but the lead scientist isn't murdered. Like, how does that happen? I'm going to tell you,
Jay, I deal with federal sales every year with my job.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about federal money, it's you use it or you lose it. So I think that's kind of what's going on here is kind of this backwards budget mentality that the government has where they probably had a couple million laying around and you know what, guys, if we don't use this, our budget's going to be smaller next year. So let's just spend it on this. It's got to be, but I don't know. I mean, to bring up though this movie though, I got to give a little bit of an anecdote here because this is actually the second time for me watching this movie. I saw this when I was a kid, and it was one of those like not secret. Like my dad went to the video store. It was time of Jurassic Park dinosaurs, and he rented this for me on VHS. And I remember sitting there like watching it on Saturday morning, being like, "What in the hell am I watching?" But I watched the entire thing as a kid, and yeah, the only thing I remembered was the girl getting her leg bit off.
See, I remembered I had never seen this before. And I think I had seen the box or something and had just dismissed it. I actually had, in my mind, thought this had was a video game, like one of those early PlayStation games where I think Turok was the name of those games where you shot dinosaurs in a Lost World kind of situation. But I had transposed those at one time. So I didn't know this was a movie until we brought it up and kept talking about it. And I finally looked it up, and there it was on YouTube for all of its glory.
Yeah, Turok Dinosaur Hunter for Nintendo 64. That's the one you're thinking of. Or you're thinking of Dino Crisis, which was the Resident Evil clone.
Maybe
yeah, that was a good game. Yeah, that was the Resident Evil made by Capcom. It was like Resident Evil with dinosaurs.
Yeah, it was a Capcom game. Yes, I do remember that.
But here's the thing. The government's not funding the research. This Unis Corporation is funding the research.
Are they kind of like the parent company of the Pro Rollers Corporation from after last season? I feel like they're a run about as well, and their sets are just about the same.
Yeah, I mean, you mean you don't work in a laboratory full of smoke machines and lasers?
Generally, no, and I mean, you know, we're a pretty big STEM school that I work for or whatever, and they're kind of clean looking rooms. They're actually sort of boring looking. Like there's nothing that looks. Though in the 1990s, I would have thought that most nefarious government labs looked like this. So it actually looks like a set out of one of the evil recurring characters on Knight Rider would be in. That's what I felt like I was watching.
Well, I got to ask a question though about the name of the company. How do you say it again, Ron?
Unis.
So did they combine urine and anus into a company name?
No,
I think that's probably like Roger Corman's mom's name.
Yeah, that's what I was just say. It's probably Corman's grandmother or something. The Eunice Corporation. Like I was looking for symbolism there. I'm like, why not call it the Eve or Lilith or something? Something to have that.
Janus.
Yeah, something like that. But I guess they didn't want to go too far down that road, or maybe nobody thought about it. How many people wrote this? Was it a committee and then they just blamed it on a couple people, or
wasn't this a book?
Yes, this was a book.
No
by
way.
a guy named Harry Adam Knight. He also did the treatment, and Adam Simon, who is a real person who worked on the TV show Salem, if you remember that from WGN America.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Directed and wrote the screenplay based off of John Brosnan, aka Harry Adam Knight's treatment.
This had to be like you go in the dollar store while you're waiting to go visit a friend in the hospital or something, and you just grab like a cheap novel that you're going to sit around and read. This has to be one of those, like next to the Mac Bolan novels.
Yeah, they have these in the book section in the OB, so when women are waiting to give birth, they can read it.
Might as well, right?
The dinosaur egg baby that they're about to have.
Yeah, it could be worse, ladies. It could be worse.
We'll talk about the birth scene because we have to. I can't let that go. Now, I only know Raphael Sbarge from one other thing, and it is a thing that I admit is not very good, but that I love nonetheless. My Science Project. I love that movie. It still rings for me. I like almost everything about it. Dennis Hopper's insane in it. John Stockwell is funny in it because he's trying to be this jock and he's so not. And then you've got Raphael Sbarge and an incredibly racist Fisher Stevens running around, and there's a dinosaur shoot 'em up scene in that movie too. So Raphael Sbarge may have got this gig off of that.
Would you like to hear some fun facts about the book?
Please do. Have you read this, by the way?
I have not read the book, but it predates Jurassic Park by 6 years.
So Crichton ripped this off.
Well, if Crichton went to Australia, yes, because the book came out in Australia. Okay, so the book came out 6 years before Jurassic Park, and it also contained a scene in which dinosaurs rampage through a museum. It was published in the UK by the guy who is Australian, and he was worried that the reissue of his book would be seen as plagiarism of Jurassic Park, even though his book came first.
That's bad, right? When you do something first and then you realize, wow, everybody's going to think I ripped this off. So, that's not a good sign. So,
he wrote the book because someone told him, because a journalist, a friend of his, came back from Hollywood and said the dinosaur movies were going to become the next big fad. So he predated the dinosaur boom by like a good decade.
But I mean, did they though? Like Jurassic Park was a huge thing, but I can't remember any other ones really making it. Even The Lost World, the sequel to Jurassic Park, that one didn't do that great. And then Jurassic Park 3 just sucks. So the dinosaur boom never really happened.
Well, the dinosaur boom also didn't happen when he wrote the book, which was 1984, which is when he thought the dinosaur boom was going to happen. What? So he wrote this book, and no one paid any attention to it.
That's because Top Gun and Beverly Hills Cop came out, and Terminator and just destroyed all that crap. I mean, that's what became the boom, and Back to the Future. It was 10 years before they even got around to it. And then Spielberg's talked about being in production on Jurassic Park for nearly a decade until he felt like he could get enough of it to look right. So,
well, we got. I really want to say though that this book and movie may have been influenced more by the cult classic that me and Jay did review number of shows ago, Planet of Dinosaurs. Remember that one, Jay?
Yes, I do remember that one from, I think it was last spring or so. We did like Spring Schlock or something, and it was, you know what? That movie was kind of fun though. This one is just strange. Like there's just a lot of weird stuff that goes on in this movie, starting with that beginning. This whole chicken hunting, chicken escape, mysterious illness thing, and like the lacks of the guard. Like, hey man, I got to get these things delivered. All right, man, go ahead. Like, no, when you lock it down, baby, you lock everything down. And this is a corporation that shoots people later. I cannot get over the fact that this guard let this go down.
Well, I mean, if you slip the guy $20 and a mutant chicken lizard sandwich, you're gonna get your way. It's not like they don't seem to be paying these people very well.
No, clearly. And then we have to have our teenagers doing teenager drunk things in the desert because there's nothing else to do, right? Running into the strung out member of the corporation who's just there for the paycheck and is kind of, I don't know, hoboing his way through his 30s.
Yes, that would be the that would be Doc. That would be Raphael Sabarge that we meet.
Yeah. Who looks was he a Revenge of the Nerd alum too? He kind of looks like that group of people.
Yeah, where is this guy from? You guys keep on dropping his name like I should know where he's from.
Like I said, the only thing I know him from is my science project. I'm sure he's done other stuff. Rod, do you know him?
I thought at first it was the guy from DeBarge, but it's not.
No, he's Sabarge.
Yeah, I thought it was El DeBarge, but it's not.
No.
Let me see. He was in Risky Business.
Really? Is this one of the jerk friends or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
He's been in a bunch of TV that everyone's parents watch, like CSI and Castle. He was on Prison Break, if you watched Prison Break.
Now, my wife did watch Prison Break. She didn't watch this with me, though, so I'll have to ask her if she recognizes this guy.
24.
He was on 24. Oh, never mind. Everybody was on 24 at one time.
Yeah, everybody was on 24.
So, Nick, you were on 24 season 7, I think, at one point. You were one of the thugs that shot people, I think. So
he was on Star Trek Voyager.
See, don't watch that. But he looks like an alien anyway, so the makeup couldn't have cost much. Like, he really does have that alien forehead, which is why him and Jennifer Runyon having some sort of meet-cute relationship thing does not work at all. There's no good dynamic for them in this movie. Like, they have negative chemistry.
He was in La La Land, too.
Oh,
really?
Another one of those Oscar winners that didn't deserve it? Or nominations?
No. Wrong, Raphael. So,
well, I mean, let's talk about him though. Like, what he is supposed to be. I think he's supposed to be the audience in this movie. Like, he's supposed to be our avatar because he's sick of working for the man, but he's stuck working for the man. So he tries to buck the system, and he ultimately gets shot for his heroism. Like, that's what he's supposed to be, right? This movie's this dark existential thing. Anyway, everybody loses in the end. That's the
I thought
the downer
of the
audience,
movie.
Including the audience.
Especially I thought he was the audience stand-in because he was kind of drunk throughout the most of the movie.
I'm not sure that wasn't for real. Either.
And they don't have. Let's be clear. Doc and Thrush don't have a meet cute. It's a meet ugly because he drunkenly waves a shotgun at her,
which he proclaims that he can't shoot properly.
Of all the weapons to arm yourself with, by the way, shotguns are pretty. Like, you don't have to really know much about guns to be able to operate one, right? Like, Rod, you're a gun guy. You know this, right? Like, shotgun's that one's pretty basic. Everybody can kind of figure that one out. You don't really have.
Was it a shotgun or was it just like a handgun?
It looked like a shotgun thing.
Yeah, I thought it was a shotgun, but
I know he's got a shotgun later.
Yeah. Either way, he's waving a gun at this chick because that's how you get somebody, right? Because that works. So
it worked for Phil Spector.
Not in the end, it didn't. So,
well, it is. Did this take place in the South?
It
takes place in like New Mexico or
I
some
thought this
desert
was
state.
desert of Arizona or something like.
Yeah, it's somewhere where they've got dinosaurs laying around. So I think it's like
Montana, maybe Badlands.
Yeah,
so
somewhere deserty.
You know what? I'm gonna now connect my two films here. I'm gonna say this is what happened to his character from my science project, which was also out in the middle of nowhere, like Area 51 style, and this is just where he ended up, which is sad now because he got shot and killed over his protection and love of this woman. So who births a chicken monster later. So I mean, what is the walk me through understanding that whole impregnate the women thing. Like, okay, Nick, this reminds me of something we reviewed years ago. It's a little Aliens versus Predator Requiem. I'm like, did the Brothers Strauss watch this and decide to rip that off too?
I was thinking Humanoids from the Deep.
Haven't seen that one, so
that's a good pull.
But that's the plot, though. It's like these monsters from the deep, like just their goal is to impregnate human women. I mean, there is like this sick like subgenre, these like guys that are like obsessed with this, where it's like, let's have women birth the most gross things possible. I don't know. It's I don't know.
What is the like? Is that Dr. Tiptree's like revenge on the world? Is that she's gonna get back at men by making women suffer horribly? Like, I don't understand that. That doesn't. No, why wouldn't you like impregnate men somehow and do like a reverse Junior thing on people?
Well, they should have done.
Men just die. Men just die, and women give birth to dinosaurs, so that way dinosaurs can take over the earth again.
So
she's giving.
So let me do the Jeff Goldblum thing from Jurassic Park. God creates man. God creates dinosaurs. God kills the dinosaurs. Men kill God. Men create dinosaurs for women to get pregnant off of, and God destroys us all? I mean, is that how that works?
Basically, except you left out the part where it has something to do with chickens.
Right. Well, look, what's the old... I feel like that comes from the old adage of when you don't know how to describe how something tastes anymore, what do you say? Tastes like chicken. Like, I've heard that so many times about, like, things that have no business tasting like chicken. Matter of fact, someone tried to tell me once that frog's legs and rattlesnake meat taste like chicken. And I'm like, nope, they taste like frog and rattlesnake. Like, maybe that's the inside joke here is that, well, if everything tastes like chicken and chicken is the universal food, then let's just go with chicken.
Oh, I thought it had something to do with like bird flu, but this movie predates bird flu by a good 15 years.
Yeah, have either of you ever been to a chicken processing unit? I've seen one, and like how that goes from egg to your plate in a few days. Basically, it's a very scary operation. It'll make you change the way you think about those things.
I like to live ignorantly on that stuff, so.
It's just a hazard of my job of what they recruit, and so I've seen it now. And then they try to serve me some, and I'm like, I think I'm going to go with the salad. Thanks.
I love frog's legs, and I love chicken, and I don't need to know how it becomes an edible thing. In either case.
Right, but I wonder if, like, Corman, somewhere in his travels and his work, and maybe the author did too, like saw that and said, oh, it is kind of horrific if you want to stay ignorant about the way your food's made and stuff. But once you know that, I mean, how did you think the hamburger got there? I mean, it didn't just show up that way. So I could see how that would horrify some people to sort of pull the curtain back on that. But they don't really use that. I mean, I just feel like chicken is such an easy thing to move because how many different ways do we consume chicken? There's eggs, there's egg whites, there's actual chicken, there's so many different uses for all of this, these things that it's easy to get to the population.
Chicken liver, that's pretty good too.
Right. So now what's the thing though is like the eggs are all like gross dinosaur things, but then if you eat one, you become pregnant with it. Like I didn't understand how that worked exactly.
I thought it was just the virus that caused it.
Basically, yeah, people are getting sick because of like eggs and chicken products. And I think the pregnancy is a side effect possibly of ingesting chicken or eggs, but possibly it just happens because I don't see Thrush eating eggs because I assume she's not eating anything food related.
It would be so much better if she was like this crazy vegan, and like she's getting back at all the meat eating world because they're eating chickens without really realizing that they're taking a life. So I'm going to make sure that you give birth to a meat eating dinosaur that's going to eat you.
Like, oh, yeah, we were like 10 years before any of that became public conscious, though, right? And if the book's that old, there's no way that anybody had any frame of reference for that. That would have been so weird in the 90s to think about that. Like, of all the things we protest about now, like, think about what that would have been like 24 years ago or whatever. I don't think anybody would have related to that at all. Not that
it would have been so.
But
It would have been so ahead of its time having this like militant vegan there doing this.
I don't think it would have helped it though. Like this movie doubled its budget basically, which for a Corman film ain't bad, right? I mean that's how it got sequels as we've talked about. They're modeled, but I mean like I don't think people would have responded to that in any way. I mean it would have been so out there. I just don't think that's a public conscience. That was something that you could tell in the early 90s.
I think vegetarians were out there, but I don't think vegan was a thing.
Yeah, like militant vegetarianism and like PETA and all that. I don't think that came into vogue until the late 90s and early 2000s and things.
Yeah, I think they were pretty much in France at that time. They didn't come over here yet.
So what is the Carnosaur? Like there's a central Carnosaur that the doctor keeps in a closet? Or a layer where she goes in like a Sarlacc pit or something where she goes and talks to
That's a T-Rex that she keeps in the laser pit.
So how does she get... And that's the one that gets out at the end, right? That everybody has to fight is the T-Rex?
That she lets out at the end, yes.
Okay.
That's worst looking T-Rex ever.
It may be... I want to say that fight with the skid steers. I want to come back to that. I've driven skid steers, and that's a fun thing. Those actually respond pretty well. They're kind of neat to drive. But what is like... Is he like her like embryonic advisor or something? Like where does she find the T-Rex? Where does he come from?
I think it's her crowning achievement. Like I think that's the first thing she did was clone a dinosaur, and then she started to work on the dinosaur flu.
Chicken hybrid dinosaur thing? Carnosaur, as it were?
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think first it was, all right, I cloned this dinosaur. Now let's use some of his DNA. Let's use some chicken DNA. Let's invent the Carnosaur, and then let's unleash said Carnosaur.
So she just keeps him there as like the big bad to unleash later when she's ready to,
and to occasionally feed senators to it. Yes,
right. I don't. And it doesn't want to kill her, or maybe it does, and it just can't get loose enough because the short arms is still a problem.
Well, it's behind that laser fence.
See, I keep forgetting this laser fence. I didn't know that was a laser fence. I thought that was just some lights. I mean, I really didn't see that as a laser fence.
I mean, it is just lights, but it's supposed to be a laser fence.
But it looks
she has to take it down.
It looks like some flashlights in the corner. It doesn't react like a laser fence.
It is some flashlights in the corner. It's a Roger Corman movie.
This is true.
You can't just judge it by what it's supposed to be. No. Otherwise, it's a puppet behind some flashlights.
I know. I get that, but I don't recall them playing it as if this is an electric fence. You know, like
they do, because she has to, like, she lowers that electric fence to kill the dad of the teenage girl who gets her leg bit off.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the teenage girl getting the leg bit off too. Now that is an incredible leg bite scene. That is like right out of Shark Attack 3. I mean that is ahead of its time. I feel like sci-fi has made an entire set of genre off of that type of leg biting wound.
Oh, they definitely have, and this is probably the inspiration for that whole genre.
I almost feel like another couple $100,000, and this might look decent though. I don't know. I mean, the blood effect isn't bad. Like for as cheap as it is, I kind of thought it was appropriate. At least it matched with everything else that was going on.
I mean, they spent really good money on the puppets and on the. They had like a 12-foot or a 15-foot pneumatic dinosaur.
That's got to be Buechler's influence and work there, right? Because he comes out of the Stan Winston school, right?
He's the one who designed all those things, and he built those things, and they could only use like foam rubber for the skin, so they couldn't use it for any of the fight scenes because it would tear.
Of course it would.
Well, of course it's spray painted foam rubber.
So Nick, you got to weigh in on the attack scene there and the kill, though, because you're usually our gore review expert. So what did you make of the eating of the leg?
It was a long time coming. I was, like I said, when I saw this as a kid, that's like the one scene I remembered. So I was waiting this entire movie for it. 3 tries to get there, but I did get there, and yeah, it was what it was. I think it's the best scene in the movie by far. I mean, when you get someone's leg bit off by a dinosaur, I mean, it takes a lot to, supersede that. But yeah, I don't know. It was there.
Yeah, they built a 16-foot tall robot, but they didn't like the way it moved, and they also had a guy in a giant. Yeah, it had a narrow range of movement, and they also had a guy in a dinosaur suit, which they also didn't like.
See, that would have been so much better if they went Gojira on it. Like, I could have respected that.
No, they should have went like Ray Harryhausen here and just did everything in claymation.
There's no way they could have afforded that. Not on $850,000. That would have looked awful. So that's expensive to do. That is a really expensive way to shoot.
Yeah, but it's so much better. I don't know. I'm a big stop motion fan, so
it's at least charming. You got a point.
Yeah. No, look. Listen. Clash of the Titans for me is fantastic because of that. Like the original one, not the Sam Worthington ones. Like that's the charm of it. Like it has a look and a feel to it. But I'm just saying, there's no way they had the budget for that. They couldn't have done that and made it look good at all. It may have looked. I mean, the dinosaurs only in maybe 5 minutes of this movie, which is an hour and a half long for the most part. So they didn't have any money to spend on it anyway. They couldn't spend it on that.
Well, wasn't it the same thing with Jurassic Park, though? Is like when you actually add up all the time that dinosaurs are on the screen, it's like only like 15 or 16 minutes of the movie.
Well, yeah. I mean, Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar for being in Silence of the Lambs for like 6 minutes. I mean, it's just what you do with when you're on screen, that makes a difference. And I mean, they show a lot of the Carnosaur and Carnosaur carnage. Like, I was surprised how much of it we actually got. I figure a movie like this usually does the Jaws thing and cheaps it out because, one, they don't have the money to really do it well, and two, that's the formula, is you hide it. You don't show it until you absolutely have to.
Well, they didn't have the money to do it. They didn't have the money to do it well, but they did it anyway, and that's the Roger Corman way.
That may be the review of this movie. They didn't have the money to do it well, but they just did it anyway.
Well, even like the last scene, though, with like the skid loader and the dinosaur, you ever see the movie Life Stinks by Mel Brooks?
No, I have not.
I have.
Is there a skid steer showdown in it? Because I may need to watch it now.
There is. It's 2 of them going at each other at the end.
That sounds awesome. So before we get to the skid steer showdown, though, there's a section of about 15 to 20 minutes in the middle of this, though, where like the sheriff's wife and kids are getting sick. The eggs have the dinosaur baby thing. He takes it to somebody to get looked at, and Clint Howard gets his head bitten off. That I'm like, that was the most enjoyable section of the movie for me. It all just kind of happens right there before we get to Act 3.
Is that during the hippie murder festival?
Yes.
All the hippies.
What is the hippie murder festival that kicks all that off, though? They're just trespassing? Isn't that what it is?
All the hippies have chained themselves to the heavy equipment so they can't continue to do excavation.
So
I'm not sure what they're. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're supposed to be excavating, but they all handcuff themselves and chain themselves to the heavy equipment, and then the Carnosaur shows up and starts having a dinner of vegan, soy, free-range hippies.
It's kind of like the NFL players protesting something, protesting the president, protesting them. We don't really know. It's just happening now. That's what's going on here.
Well, except the NFL players are protesting actual things, and I'm not really sure what they're protesting, that they're digging holes in the desert.
I mean, yeah, let's preserve the desert. Like, that's the part that I don't understand. It's not like they're wrecking this lush, fertile ground, or are they saying that because they're doing chicken growth for food, are they doing the militant vegan thing and they're just ahead of their time?
It may be that they're just ahead of their time because, I mean, they live on a commune, and, I mean, one of them looks like fake David Carradine.
That is a pretty good... maybe it's supposed to be like the Branch Davidians or something. We're a few years ahead of that, but not far. I mean, Colts were a thing.
Jonestown was still a thing.
Right, yeah, that was in the consciousness. Everybody knew that, so I could follow that. But it all kind of culminates, though, when we get Diane Ladd to do the evil genius thing to explain to us all of the crazy plot, and then we get into our birthing scene. And I need some of you to explain. I need one of you to explain this birthing thing for me, because I didn't know what I was watching anymore at that point. The generals and the science nerds are seeing this go down, and everyone is just in shock and awe.
This is Ron's specialty. Go at it.
Yeah, the flu is spreading to the people who work at Eunice. So Diane Ladd is checking her out, and she's getting sick. So somehow Diane Ladd gets her to lay down on a gurney, and then
this is like her secretary, right, or her assistant?
Yeah, her assistant. And then her stomach explodes, and then Diane Ladd pulls out a baby dinosaur. And that's when the government is also simultaneously the government's figuring out what Tiptree has been doing, and then they're calling in the death squads. And some of the people that survived, that were from, I believe, from the diner, some of the townies who weren't eaten when Clint Howard was eaten, are also there, and they're getting sick and giving birth to a lady explodes with another dinosaur baby in front of the group, and that's when they realize they've got a problem.
Wow.
Something about the dinosaur eggs or the chicken flu is changing people's DNA. And I think that's where they're turning people basically into giant dinosaur eggs, like living dinosaur eggs, and then the dinosaurs are ripping their way out.
So you have dinosaurs birthed by people who then infect people with a virus that turns them into more dinosaur eggs?
People get, the eggs and the chickens are carriers of this airborne virus. People who are exposed to the chickens are getting sick with the virus. People who eat the eggs and the chicken meat are getting sick with the virus. Men are dying, and women are exploding with dinosaur babies.
Wow. Wow. No wonder this movie ends so nihilistically at the end. There's no way anyone can be allowed to survive.
Well, that's why the FEMA death squads show up and start executing everyone.
They blow people away in this movie. Like I was
they're gunning down everyone.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I mentioned the Crazies, because the same thing happens in the Crazies. The government shows up and starts murdering everyone.
Yeah, spoiler alert for the Crazies, everybody, by the way. And The Mist, apparently, too, which you threw out there.
Yeah, it's a spoiler alert on a 40-year-old movie, and then on a movie that's 12 years old. So
I was thinking Night of the Living Dead.
Hey, that's a good
Crazies.
pull.
This is a George Romero movie, but they weren't. Well, they just shot the one guy. They didn't shoot everyone.
They shot the minority. Let's get it right.
And then the Crazies, they shoot everyone.
And in The Mist, they shoot the kids, right? So that's to save them from.
In The Mist, Thomas Jane shoots the kids.
Well, he is the
Thomas
Punisher,
Jane, right?
So
yeah.
So it's just right. So.
That's what you get for jaywalking.
That's what happens. So you know what though, Thomas Jane gets a pass because he murders mutant sharks with LL Cool J in Deep Blue Sea, so that's okay with me. So, that's a someday on Carnosaur. By the way, Deep Blue Sea. Well, I don't know how we haven't done that yet, but we haven't done Jaws.
Jay. Thank you. Now I got that LL Cool J song in my head now, just by you bringing that up.
My head is like a Sharks fan. That's in
my
your
head.
Wow.
Is like a yep. It's in there now. So it ain't going away.
Hey,
it's not going. It's like a week now. It's going to be here until next week. So
we
thank you.
needed a song for this showdown though, with the skid steers and the 16 by 1 foot Carnosaur though at the end, like the way that they drive into it and stab it to death basically as it tries to decapitate them with its short arms. This is T-Rex's problem though, right? Like it's got that huge head and mouth, but if you want to get in close, man, like if you want to punch away, I mean, you don't get in close. You do the Lennox Lewis, you just jab it to death from the outside.
I do really like the dinosaur and skid steer fight.
And
I also like.
I mean, I wanted to, having driven a skid steer, I kind of think that would have been fun to do. So.
Yeah, I've driven one too. They're pretty great. I also like the death of the sheriff, who I called Carl Weathers, even though it's not Carl Weathers, because he finds a dinosaur, like in his den or whatever, and he goes in and shoots the dinosaur, but the dinosaur also fatally wounds him. And this is after he realizes that his whole family is going to die from dinosaur flu.
Dinosaur flu. I like that though. The dino flu happened, but then in that case, like I would have been fine if he had like burned his whole house down, like he lit the gas up and did a Halloween 2. It's time, Michael, and just lit the whole thing up and boom. That would have been cool.
They couldn't afford to build a model of a house and blow it up.
But they could have blown up the one room. Like that's not that hard to pull off. But
they spent all their money making tiny skid steers with a little Raphael support.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that is the great thing. Like I have my father-in-law one year bought me and his son and then my other brother-in-law these like little mini monster trucks to race around just because he wanted us to do that, and so we were doing that. And I have one of mine sitting here, and I feel like that looks like the skid steer that somebody's remote controlling. Like your son Nick could have been doing the remote control work with one of the GI Joes stuck in there against the fake dinosaur.
I think it would have been better doing it that way.
See, kids today don't remember going to the amusement park to do those like remote control, BattleBot things, but I do. That was fun. So this is what that reminds me of. And
they did. They built quite a few different dinosaurs to attempt to make it happen, and it ended up being a puppet, like a 3-foot tall puppet, versus a little model car, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, really. So, but I love how they basically stab it to death. Like that's the ultimate solution, right? Is to just joust it.
Who would have thought that the dinosaur's mortal enemy would be stabbing?
Well, I mean, what else were they going to do? Get a fake comet and knock it out? I mean, what was the other option?
Blow it up
with a block of ice.
You said blow it up. What, like Jaws style?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Just get some TNT or something and have it like some guy being like, remember like Jaws 3 where the guy had like a grenade or something that like Jaws was like chewing on like a piece of bubble gum or something, and maybe he like goes in his mouth and he's like, you're extinct, and then hits the thing and blows it up.
How does Raphael Sbarge not get a great back to extinction bitch line or something like that in this?
Yeah, I was really disappointed at the lack of get away from her, you bitch.
I mean, yeah, that was still in the public consciousness. How could they not at least reference that at some point? Oh, that's right. These people don't really know what they're doing. So that's how.
Back to the Cretaceous for you.
I don't know. I needed something to tie into because I mean, by the time they get around to executing the lone survivors, I was surprised by it. But then again, I'm like, I totally understand it. Like the government's answer would be, we're going to kill everybody and just act like this didn't happen again. Nuke the site from orbit just to be sure.
Yeah, the government agency should have like a cool name or something like Asteroid or Meteor Strike Team or something, just so it's completely on the nose.
Listen, the Buffy fan of me is having season 4 initiative flashbacks. I feel like this is what they were ripping off.
It was FEMA, but in this case, FEMA stands for Full Earth Mutant Annihilation.
That one's good. Militant FEMA.
The important thing is that nobody survives the wrath of FEMA. You did a great job, Brownie.
No, that is the wild thing about this movie, though, is that nobody lives. Like, you don't see that in films. Like, how did they pull that off? Maybe that's how this has had any lasting effect at all. Is that it ends with such a downer.
It does end with a downer because Thrush dies, even though they've got the antidote. Doc calls the cavalry, but the FEMA shows up and murder him. They burn down the trailer with the antidote inside, and they burn up that cool picture of Alfred E. Newman.
Yeah, what was with the Alfred E. Newman thing, by the way? Which, if you don't know who that is, folks, as Conrad would say, throw that in your Google machine. But I mean, what is the Mad Magazine tie in here? Mort Drucker hanging out in the back of this somehow?
I think Duck Ewing designed the dinosaurs.
That's what it was.
Sergio Aragones contributed to the nihilistic script.
This feels like something that Mad Magazine would have written, like as a spoof of Jurassic Park, though.
Maybe that's maybe they're ghost writ. Maybe they contributed to the script. Who knows?
Well, no, you guys said it's based on a book, so the fact that is true and that this was published, like, wow. How do I not have a book? How does Nick not have a book? I mean, everybody should have a book at this point. If that can happen,
it's on order.
These days with the internet, anybody can publish a book.
This is true. I did see a late night infomercial with like people that will help you publish your book and get it on Amazon or something. But
yeah, I know people who have. Acquaintances who have self-published terrible books via Amazon. So.
Oh, outstanding! So, well,
and there is a completely and you got to look this up. There is a subgenre on Amazon with dinosaur erotica novels. And it's exactly what you think it is.
Oh,
wow. It's not dinosaur on dinosaur action. No.
Oh
no. It's Diane Ladd's favorite.
How does she live through this? Or
she doesn't. She explodes.
She does explode like that. Okay,
yeah,
I was not clear if she lived through that to come back for the sequel or not. So,
well, there is a book. Just to bring up my little tangent there. One of them is called "Taken by the T-Rex," running from the raptor in the Velociraptor's nest. So these are on there on Amazon for 99-cent buys. So,
oh my stars! I can't believe we're talking about that now at this point. Well, maybe I can, actually. So, God, well, let me ask you, Nick, though, real quick before we wrap this thing up. Like, are you glad that they went with the nihilistic everybody gets it and dies ending, or would you have been happy if Thrush or Doc had survived and lived to tell the tale?
See, just knowing this is like a Roger Corman movie, watching this like with no prior knowledge of the series, I'd be like, yes, they all died. There's no room for a sequel. But no, there is. So I don't know. I think everybody in this movie was basically unlikable. I wasn't rooting for one person minus the dinosaur. Kind of like when we did the classic review of Silver Bullet when I was rooting for the werewolf. It's just I'm glad everybody died. None of them deserve to live.
You wanted everyone to die, then, in other words. So you were fine with the. See, I wanted somebody to live. I thought Jennifer, like if Jennifer Runyon Thrush had lived, like I thought the great irony would be she lives and somehow turns the tables on all those, FEMA gunmen or whatever, but then she walks out into the desert and realizes, oh crap, I'm now impregnated with, the Carnosaur's baby or something like that.
Well, they could have done that. Or what about her being pregnant with Dinosaur and she doesn't die, and then it sets up the sequel, also known as Prehysteria?
That's pretty good. Could have been that, or like maybe she becomes Daenerys Targaryen and she's the mother of Carnosaurs.
No, but you do know there's a movie called Prehysteria, right?
I did not know. Is that what this is about? Because I didn't know that existed.
It's about kids finding baby dinosaurs.
Holy cow. Like preschool kids, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, like grade school kids, and they have it's like E.T. with dinosaur babies.
Sounds more like the Little Rascals special episode of the 90s when they rebooted that or something. It would work that way.
Yeah. Speaking of dinosaurs, what's that one 80s dinosaur movie that came out, though, that had like the Brontosaurus baby dinosaur?
Prehysteria?
No,
we were just talking about that one, so it's not that. Yeah.
No, it was like a robotic like baby like Brontosaurus, and it was almost like what's that movie with Brooke Shields, like the Blue Lagoon, but it's with a dinosaur.
The Blue Lagoon? Well,
yes,
talk about dinosaur erotica.
Yes, but it's with a baby Brontosaurus. Come on, you guys know this.
I have no idea what you're referencing. I really don't. I mean,
oh my God! Come on, really? You get
no. I'm not playing coy. I have no idea what you're talking about. So
it's called Baby Secret of the Lost Legend, 1985.
Yeah, no, that one I missed that
And
one.
it's starring Sean Young.
That's definitely next time on Strip down the road someday then, because the Sean Young was where you had me. So I will watch that train wreck anytime.
Is there going to be a spin-off Sean Young podcast?
There could be. We did that in Blade Runner, and then that new sequel's coming out too. So I don't think she's involved in the 2049 in any way, but that would have been funny if she is. But we could talk about that, and I just think sometimes about her playing Catwoman in Batman Returns and how much more awful that movie could have been with her in it. So.
Wow.
But, back on Carnosaur here. We're at the part where it's time to give final thoughts, recommendations, and popcorn ratings for this movie. I don't know how you guys are. I am scared as to how you two are going to vote on this, but I'll pitch it to you. Ron, what are yours?
I think Nick should go first. I'm interested to hear what he's got to say.
Okay, so we're gonna do the triple shoot. I'm gonna pass it to you, and you're gonna kick it into Draymond. So let us know what happens, Nick.
Yeah, this is like hot potato here, man. This is I don't know. This is like going to the bar and someone's got to take home the ugly chick.
A 2 at 10 and a 10 at 2, baby.
I guess I'll take the one for the team here. It's a large popcorn, guys, and when I say that, I'm completely. When I say that, I'm completely bullshitting you. This is a small popcorn. This movie is freaking awful. I do have to apologize for the Stone Cold review and how we name dropped this movie like numerous times, because all it did was it just set us up for this. And like I this is like the first review where I think I've been mostly quiet during it because I don't even know what I watched. I'm just sitting there 3 times just going, oh my God, this is so boring. Oh my God, this is so stupid. Oh, there's a dinosaur and it looks like crap. And then it's like, what? They're giving birth? What is this junk? It's just like, it's an awful, 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 awful movie. And I think it's one of the worst movies we have seen. In fact, this might be the worst movie I have watched for this podcast. And that is saying a lot. Okay.
Worse than Hellraiser 8? Hell Goes Online? Really?
Yes, because at least that stuff had I don't know, Jay. It's terrible, man. It's just it's not a good movie, and I'm excited in a way to see where this series goes because I don't know. Ron brought up aliens with dinosaurs. It can't get worse. It really can't. And I'm just hoping that the next ones are like schlocky fun. You know, like you watch something like Sharknado or something like that. It's a stupid movie, but there is something there that's kind of like fun. This movie wasn't fun. It was just like, it felt like, this is the perfect analogy. When you guys were kids and you guys were homesick and your mom was there taking care of you and she puts on a freaking soap opera and you're sitting there just going, this is freaking awful, but I'm not saying anything because I want chicken noodle soup and I'm just going to wait for it because I don't want to offend her. So, yep, that's what it is. Like, this is like Days of Our Lives bad. So, small popcorn. Screw myself for bringing this up. So,
oh, okay. Well, Nick has gone the self-immolation route. So, Ron?
I don't remember 32 people dying on Days of Our Lives. So, I'm going to give this movie a medium popcorn. It's not. Just give me a chance here. Give me a chance.
Medium fucking popcorn.
Yes. It's not good. Nobody's gonna say it's good. But it's weird as hell, and it's weird enough to be interesting in segments. There's a lot of stuff that is terrible, but then you've got puppets fighting remote control cars. Then you've got that girl's leg being bitten off. Then you've got a bunch of people in garbage bag suits shooting Raphael Sabarge. It's got enough things in it for me to have enjoyed it. I don't think it's as good as the second one, but the second one has John Saxon. So
wow. Wow, media popcorn. You get okay. So this is my analogy for this movie. I felt like that time when I went to the fair and I saw something I had only heard about, and then I thought, man, I got to try it. And it's the deep fried Twinkie on a stick. And like in theory, that should be good, like fair food, right? I'm going, yes, it's going to be fattening and awesome and all that. And then you get it, and you get a good bite into it, and you realize that not only is this not good for me, but this is truly awful. Like, this is the worst idea ever. In fact, I'm sad that I spent $5 on this now. I'm going to go home early and shame myself for having done this. This is a deep fried Twinkie, and it's a really bad one at that. This is small popcorn, and I'm with you, Nick. It can only get better, and my memories of Carnosaur 2 are that it does get a lot better. I'm hoping you're right, Ron, that is the aliens of the franchise. That would be fantastic.
And I'm sorry, it's not John Saxon, it's John Savage. But there's also our favorite, Miguel Nunez.
Oh, that's going to be great. Well, I'm a small popcorn in it because that's where I have to on this one. This is just so weird and awful. It's not the worst thing I've ever reviewed on this show. I mean, not even close. But it's still pretty bad, and I'm glad that the good thing about it is it's mostly forgettable, even in spite of all of that weird birthing crap that it tries to throw in there.
Wait a minute. Who's John Savage? For a second there, I was thinking it was Ben Savage.
I wish it was Ben Savage. John Savage was in like The Deer Hunter and The Thin Red Line.
No, he's a real actor. Yeah, that's. I'm curious to see him do a turn in a piece of garbage sequel. So it can only be better. But
speaking of like Ben Savage, can we just do Little Monsters instead?
No, we are stuck in the Carnosaur now, baby. And yes, Nick, I'm glad you admitted it. This is all your fault. So you can send all your complaints to nick@CompuServe.com for that. But otherwise, folks, thanks for joining us on the show. Of course, you can follow us on social media @Continuous Play. You can follow all the co-hosts here also on Twitter. Nick is @JokerNick1983. Ron is @HollywoodRon. And I'm @JNewcastleCPP. Give us a like on Facebook. Give us a review on iTunes or Google Play, wherever you download the podcast. Let other people know about it. We appreciate the support. Until next time, for something hopefully much better.
I hate myself.
I'd just like to remind everyone that I made a special guest appearance on the podcast based on a true crime. It is, I believe it's episode 12, the Leopold and Loeb episode. I read a ransom note about written by two men who murdered a 14-year-old boy and burned his genitals off with acid.
Still a better performance than anything in Carnosaur. So yes, I've listened to that. That's a very good turn. That and shout out to our friends over at the Generation Y podcast. Justin joined on and out for the unofficial kickoff to Shocktober here with the review of The Thing, and so check those guys out and check out that show as well. So for Ron and Nick, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Please leave us a positive review on iTunes and link up with us on Facebook. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121.